All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Golfers Anonymous podcast. A very special episode this week with back to back low AM winner Neal Shipley from both the Masters and the US Open, also newly pro Neal Shipley. So I'll turn it over to you, Neal. Introduce yourself in a second. But if this is your first time coming to the show, I'm just going to give you my quick spiel about what we do here and what you can expect. So my name's Noah, and I'm your host every single week, and I bring on a new guest every single week to basically talk about golf, why they got into the game, why they love the game so much, and why golf occupies, 25 to 50% of my waking thoughts. I found that golf, you find one person that plays at a wedding, a party, bar, anything like that, you automatically have endless things to talk about for that evening. So I want to take those conversations, throw them up on the internet, and I've ended up with this like interesting little scrapbook of everybody's favorite golf memories. So it's been a lot of fun to do. But without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Neal. And just so you know how I typically have folks introduce themselves on the show, we're going to do obviously your name, how long you've been playing golf, and then your current handicap index, which is might be an interesting one for you.
Yeah, well, hey guys, I'm Neal Shipley. Uh I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've been playing golf for I'm 23, so that would be, man, I mean, I had a club in my hand when I was 3 years old. It's about 20 years, I guess, since I've been swinging a club around. And I'm currently I want to say I'm a plus 6.1, something in that range. But I'm giving up a lot of shots to a scratch player. That's all I know. So that's
Perfect, man. Well, Neal, welcome to the show. And I think just like a good place to start, I know you said you got the club in your hand when you were 3 years old. Why don't we just start with like what the early part of your golf career looked like? Was golf always the main sport? Were you playing other sports? Just tell me about that.
Yeah, golf was certainly something I always loved, but it wasn't my first sport that I maybe thought I wanted to go pro in or whatnot. I really enjoyed baseball as a kid. I played a lot of baseball, and that was probably the sport that I paid the most attention to up until I was maybe 13 or 14. And I played baseball all the way through high school, but golf really it didn't really become the thing I really wanted to do until I was in college, or sorry, more in high school. Probably halfway through high school, I was like, yeah, I really want to play college golf, and then we started this journey, and it's led me to here now. So it's been a wild ride. And, I played other sports too. I played basketball. I think I played football for a year or two. We it was great. My parents really kept things kind of loose for me and just let me have fun with my sports.
Was there like a specific, moment or like period in high school where you were like, I think, golf is really the sport I want to do moving forward?
Yeah, I guess, it was probably near the end of my freshman year of high school. I think I started to think about what I wanted to do and what I really liked, and I started to realize like, man, if I don't like focus on one sport, I'm probably not going to get a scholarship in any sport. And I just loved golf so much, and I think what really drew me to it was the camaraderie with friends. When I was younger, being able to go to the country club on any given day, and my same 3 to 5 buddies would be there, and we'd go play our little executive 9-hole course, and then go to the pool and get milkshakes, and then go out and play some more golf and go to the pool. And I think that kind of like group of guys really drew me into golf, and I think that's why I realized I just wanted to play that and really enjoyed it. I think golf is so unique in the community that's around it.
And so tell me now a little bit about like how was that transition like going from, playing in high school to then, ultimately playing in college? Were there any like big differences there that you found?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I realized that I wasn't really that good when I was in when I first got into college. And I mean, I was ranked 400th in my recruiting class, so the I wasn't a great junior player by any stretch of the imagination. I got the James Madison, and I would you know make the starting lineup, but I'd go to these tournaments and I'd shoot 68, 78, 68, and that's that maybe be a T T35 or T50, somewhere in that range. So we didn't finish at the bottom of the field, but we certainly weren't, competing to win. And I mean, it's kind of when I realized like, okay, we need to try and change the formula just a little bit to try and be a little bit more consistent. So that's kind of that's the one thing I could get in high school golf. I could really get away with not being as consistent, especially in Pennsylvania. It's in Western Pennsylvania. We play like 9-hole matches after school, so you don't need to be that consistent on 9 holes compared to over a 54-hole tournament. And then yeah, the courses are just longer and more difficult, and they challenge you. And if you fray shots like I used to, then you would get penalized.
It's funny you bring up you didn't realize like you weren't as good as you thought you were. I ran track in college. Very it's funny, I host a golf podcast. I never played competitive golf in my life, but aside from the point, I ran track, and like track is very similar, right? Where like you come in as a freshman and you're like a scrawny little kid. I was like 155 pounds, and you're going up against like grown 23, sometimes 24-year-old men, and you realize very quickly it's like this is a very different ball game than what I was accustomed to back in high school at my little Massachusetts meet.
Yeah, I mean, college athletics is crazy strong. I mean, you can just see now with the Olympic trials, being the last couple of weeks. It's just like some of these, just college guys that are just absolutely animals that are going to be in Paris. It's like pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is nuts. So now on your college golf, I know you were there. You were there during COVID, right? I imagine that was the middle of your time in school. What was that like? How did that impact like practice, competing, all that stuff?
Yeah, well, yeah, so yeah, when COVID happened, it was my freshman year, and we were literally in the airport in Washington, D.C. We're in Reagan. We're about to get on a flight, and then everything in the world just kind of shut down. And so we ended up driving back to Harrisonburg, Virginia. I think our team hung out for a day, and then we just all kind of scattered back home. And
Right.
we got back on in the fall, and we didn't really practice much. The coach was like, I don't, we knew we weren't going to be competing. Like it was really weird. And I think at the same time, it was definitely maybe not the best thing for my development, but it was probably nice to get like that big block of time. I just got to work on my game for, a whole fall semester.
Right.
You weren't worried about competing or, for anything, or competing to travel to a tournament. I just got to kind of move my swing into the direction where I wanted it to go, and, work on short game and other technical things. And I think that was super helpful, for my game in particular, just because I kind of had that big block of time to really get things gelled together. And I think that's I was still I didn't hit the ground hot and running after COVID, but pretty soon after I started to play some better golf and kind of piece things together.
Is COVID when you started growing out the hair?
Yeah, I did grow it out during COVID, and then we cut it again before I got back to campus. That was interesting, and it kind of piqued my interest. I'm like, man, I could grow this lettuce out pretty long. Currently, it's way too long. It's way too long right now. Um,
Dude, you got to keep it, man.
oh,
You're
we
on
are
such
gonna
a good run
we
of
got.
play. You can't cut it.
I know. We're not definitely not chopping it, but need a trim at some point. I haven't seen my girl Diane in like, it's been like 3 months, so she's gonna come back. I'm gonna come back and see her probably at the end of this run that I'm on now on the tour, and she's gonna yell at me for not coming to get a trim sooner.
You need like a logo on your bag that's just like a cartoonized version of just like the flow and the wind or something like that. You need to
We
trademark that.
we've floated that. I had a buddy of mine who's a caddy. He said you should take like a golf ball with like sunglasses and just like the flow. It'd be pretty electric. So I think we might have to try
Yeah,
and do
that would
something
be
like that.
sick.
It'd be pretty electric.
Hell yeah, man, that's awesome. Well, on the topic of moving through college, and you brought up the tour. Why don't you tell me a bit like what that transition looked like when you went over to Ohio State, and then kind of how things accelerated to ultimately playing in the Masters, and kind of how things got to where they are now.
Yeah, well, the transition to Ohio State, because I had that experience under my belt of being a college athlete, it wasn't crazy different. Obviously, you have to adjust to different teammates and different coaches, but kind of what you do on, during your call it work week is pretty much the same. You still got class, you still got workouts and practice. It might just be at different times, but it's something that I've navigated for 3 years. So, pretty great transition. We have great resources and great facilities that I was able to utilize, and I think my time at James Madison really prepared me to take full advantage of my resources because be a really good player at a mid-major school, you have to use your resources really well. So I was accustomed to using everything I could get, and I think the level of play at the Power Five, or like the top end of college golf. It's not like crazy different from what I saw at the mid-major level. I think it's pretty interesting. A lot of people don't really talk about mid-major golf, but when you go to a tournament where there's, call it 15 mid-major schools, every school has a really solid number one guy, number two guy. Maybe half of them have a really solid three guy. The real difference is the 4 or 5 guys on those squads are just you're keeping instead of keeping like a 72 for your fourth man, you might be keeping a 78 in mid-major golf.
Right.
So it's really hard to win tournaments at any level, and so I found that you had to be like even more consistent at the Power Five level, but it wasn't like a crazy huge jump. It's really just it's fun when you go up levels in golf. It's like the difference between a 10 handicap and a 5 handicap. It's just it's pretty razor thin. It's just doing a couple good things a little better each round, and so it's
Right.
that's it's it's just small things in golf. It really is.
So I guess to close us out on your college career, you're a man with quite a few degrees. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a major in quantitative finance, minor in
Mhm.
math and econ, and then what? You just got your master's in data analytics. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the rap sheet. That was man, there's a
So
lot of
what was? Sorry, go ahead.
no, no, that's yeah, that was a lot of time in the library in school, and that was man, a lot of fun and worth it for sure. I had great classmates, and it was good. We got a backup plan that I hope to never use.
Well, that's what I was getting at. Like, what essentially was the plan? Obviously it's probably not super important now, but what was the plan if the golf career hadn't really taken off the way it did?
Yeah, the plan was probably to go move to New York and start doing investment banking. So that would have been a little bit different. My girlfriend's in investment banking right now, and I'm glad I'm not working those hours. That is for sure. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a number of friends who work in investment banking. Not much time to play golf. I'll tell you that much. And especially in New York, tough place to be a golf lover for sure.
Oh yeah, no, she can barely get out to my golf tournaments, so I can't even imagine trying to go play
Yeah.
golf in Manhattan. I mean, you just got to take the LARR out to Bethpage pretty much, and I mean that's a 9 hour ordeal for those guys. It's New York golfers they're built different.
I know, it's funny. I was out there for like I have a bunch of friends out there, and so I was out there for like 2 months in the fall, and we played Bethpage. And to your point, like everyone's at the train station, like panicking that they're not going to get on their train, looking up at the board, waiting for the rail. It's definitely quite the scene. But like you said, they're built different. They make it work. All right, so we wrapped up on your college career and what the potential backup plan was. Good news is it's looking like that it's going to stay the backup plan, hopefully. But why don't you tell me a little bit about the USAM, like kind of what it was like going up against Nick in that final, and then we'll pivot into talking about the Masters a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, at USAM there was a really, really special week at Cherry Hills. Big shout out to everyone in Denver, and if you have a lot of listeners in Denver, I mean, they were some awesome fans. We had a lot of people watching on property. It was something that's really unique for US Amateur, and man, I played pretty much one of the best rounds of my life, probably on the front 18 of our final match against Nick. I think I shot 65 and birdied 18. We get off the golf course and I'm like, holy crap! Like I have no idea how I'm tied with this guy. Like it's like this guy. I just shot 65 on a USGA setup, pretty tough pins. A lot of people watching us, and it's the finals of US Amateur. And the match is all square, and you're just kind of like that's like you shoot 65, you're supposed to be 3 up at worst. And hats off to Nick. He played just stupid good golf, and he putted the lights out too. I don't think anyone was going to beat him that day. He was just so on. But what really made that US Amateur was that semifinal match, and winning on 17, and that comeback, that was really really special, and obviously got me the opportunity to play in at Augusta and at Pinehurst, and that's the most important match of the tournament. I feel like
Right.
it man, that was that I was definitely the most nervous for that one. And it's a really I mean it's a nerve-wracking match because every shot it's in the back of your head, really, the entire
Right.
match. And so that was really it was tough to deal with, when you're out there. You gotta try and put it out of your mind, but it's just there.
Yeah. So I know you said like, you shoot 65, you feel like you're playing some of the best golf of your life, but you're tied. Like how do you kind of keep your head in it when you're like, to your point, like you shoot 65, you expect to be 3 up, but how do you just like keep your head down and keep going knowing that like, it's going to be a grind fest out there and you just got to keep playing really great golf. How do you kind of, accept that Nick's also playing really well and you just got to keep it going?
Yeah, that's I'm gonna say the most cliche thing in golf here, but I just had to take it one shot at a time, really. Which is just so it's just so true. When you take things one shot at a time, one step at a time, you never kind of get ahead of yourself, and you can kind of, I think for me too, the way I play golf, it's more of a like between my shots, I can be thinking about, girls, cheeseburgers, ice cream, whatever I want, but it's really the 20 seconds before when I kind of prepare to hit a shot, step into it and hit it, that I'm, focused, really solely focused on that one shot. And so I feel like, I can kind of just focus on a shot and take it one shot at a time, and then then pop, zone back out, and then, pop back in when we walk up to our ball again.
Is that something you had to work at that you feel like that was like a skill you had to hone, or have you always been able to kind of, compartmentalize your thoughts on the course?
Yeah, I feel like it's something that I had to kind of develop, kind of my own. It's kind of your own way of playing golf, really. I think you'll notice it. A lot of guys on tour do a lot of different things. Everyone has, their recipe, their personal recipe to play good golf. And some guys, it's being absolutely just locked in for all 18 holes. I mean, like Tiger Woods back in the day was just completely locked in whenever he went and played. Meanwhile, there's other guys that out here that certainly aren't like that, like myself. And it's, it really is just kind of like, different strokes for different folks type of deal.
And I guess one last thing on the USAM. I know you said, 65, you're like playing some of the best golf of your life. Like when you're having a round like that, and I asked because I recently had a career round. It certainly wasn't 65, but I shot 74, and I was like shaking. I was like, couldn't believe this was happening. But like for you, when you're, I'll say like consistently playing at that higher level of golf, and you fire a crazy round like that, are you aware of it while it's happening, or did it take you until after the fact to be like, oh my god, like I'm playing on a USGA setup, I just shot 65. This is like unbelievable.
Yeah, that in particular instance, I was so focused on the match and trying to beat Nick. I wasn't really worried about what I was shooting, because it is match play. In that case, we kind of got back to the clubhouse, and I was in the locker room, and I was, looking at the score sheet, and it's like, holy smokes, like we just played some stupid good golf. We put on a show, really, that first 18. It wasn't on TV, which is like such a shame. It's really a shame that it wasn't on TV, because that would have been probably some of the best golf ever to have been televised for a US Amateur final. 'Cause it was a strange show from both of us, and we both made a lot of putts. When I'm like playing with buddies, or when I'm playing, tournament here, like last week I was at the Rocket Mortgage, this week I'm at John Deere. I'm aware of what I'm at, but I'm never like afraid to keep it going. Like if I get to like 5 under, the mentality is always like, let's get it deeper.
Right.
Let's get to 6, let's get to 7, let's make a birdie, coming down one of these holes. So like I feel like that's, especially when you're playing courses that allow for scores to get pretty low. That's really, you can have that mentality. Playing a U.S. Open at Pinehurst, par is really good. That par can feel like a birdie,
Right.
So, that's a little bit different mentality, but for sure out here, it's just like, let's just keep digging.
So let's fast forward to Augusta then in April. Huge congrats on the low M there. I had a blast watching you out there, or on TV, I should say. I guess like to start us off, like how does I'm sure you watched the Masters countless times growing up, probably every year, as most of us do. At least I don't know if to you at any point you were like, I can imagine myself playing there, but like just what was it like first time stepping on the grounds and actually realizing like, wow, I'm literally going to play Augusta National in a tournament.
That first time, yeah, so I went on a practice trip in January. They allow a couple practice trips for the amateurs. And yeah, I went on a practice trip and I was there with one of my childhood friends who I play golf with every day. And, we did the whole milkshakes, play nine thing and all that. It was like it's surreal to have him there with me at Augusta. We've been playing golf since he was 10, I was 12. Now I'm 23 and he's 21. And like we're sitting up top in the Augusta National like clubhouse having breakfast and we're just kind of like, well, this is like we don't belong here. Like something like we are out of place. That's kind of what it felt like. But that's yeah, that I mean the place is so magical. It's just so hard to really put it into words and everything. There's not a thing out of place on that property. Like everything is just so perfect and thought out. It's pretty unbelievable, really. It's one of the best experiences on earth, and I really hope for every golfer that they do get to experience it at some point in their life because it's amazing.
So I know you said like you're sitting there at the clubhouse having breakfast, like in awe of everything, and then you got to go play a practice round and get ready to compete in this thing in a couple months. How does that mindset shift? Once you're actually on the golf course, like what kinds of things are you looking for to actually prepare for the tournament?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really lucky we had a veteran caddy that day who had been at the course for, 15, 20 years. Most of those guys have been around for 20, 30 years. It's pretty, they have a pretty good stable of guys. So, they knew kind of where all the pins were from like the last couple of years of the tournament. So we were able to, they were able to kind of point those out to us. We were able to practice you know, some of the really difficult putts that you see around, like, and kind of get to experience that Rays Creek effect and see what putts that are like crazy wicked fast or, just get an idea of what's going on. And then also, get the chip around and figure out where you can miss the certain pins, where is it screwed, where is it not screwed, all that type of stuff. Like we're really trying to, when I map out a golf course, I try to figure out at Augusta National in particular, you really got to figure out where you can miss and get up and down, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to struggle to hit a green from green for chipping, because there's a lot of spots where you might not be able to hold it onto the green, and there's other spots too. Where's it most optimal to putt, or where do you not want to putt from? Like if you're on hole 13 out there, the par five, you don't want to be in on the shelves to the back left to say that some of those front pins, that putt becomes really slick during
Right.
tournament week. So or on number 16, being on the right side of the green, that right upper shelf when the pin's on the lower. So it's kind of like we kind of got like a mental map of everything and kind of really leaned on some of the veteran caddies who had watched the Masters. Some of them had caddied for other amateurs in the Masters, so they had experience of the tournament, the course during tournament week and how firm and fast it gets. So we kind of had like went through a comfort a full process of turning over every stone we could, really.
And did you ever, I guess, I asked this question just because I'm mainly personally curious. Like when I go to, like I've played Torrey, I've played like Bethpage, like places where they've had majors. And, if I get to a hole where I've like seen it on TV and, at Torrey, like where Tiger made that putt in '08 or, whatever the moment is, did you ever find yourself stopping at Augusta and be like, oh my God, like this is where I saw Tiger hit this shot, or this is where I saw Spieth hit a shot in 2015. Like, did that ever cross your mind while you're out there?
Yeah, I know in particular we went to the spot where Bubba hit that shot on number 10, which is just a stupid position. They added some trees in there, so you can't really see what he saw, but you kind of get the appreciation of like, man, holy smokes, this thing was, I mean, it was hooking like 70 yards, and you had to guess the distance right. And then, when you think about it, without a rangefinder, the caddy, like getting the proper distance and kind of guessing it, like that's really, really impressive because you got to do some geometry to figure that one out.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. And then like Phil shot on 13, Tiger shot on 16, and then you get up onto 18 and you have the putting green, the Sunday pin. And I remember a lot of guys, putts to win the Masters. So that's pretty special place there. But yeah, we kind of went all over and saw a lot of them. And I think it's Augusta's unique because of that. Because the U.S. Open comes around maybe once every 10 years to a place, but Augusta, they have it every single year. And so the amount of history and the amount of memories, it's, and also like generationally, I think of, Tiger's shot and Bubba's shot, but my swing coach is older than me, might think about some of the older guys and some of the shots that they hit. And it's just so many layers of history and great champions there.
I feel like, I mean, it's easy for me to say sitting on the sidelines, but I feel like, if I were there, I would try to like let myself be a fan for at least like a few minutes, like I'm sure like you're focused on the task at hand, trying to play really good golf and the biggest tournament in your life, but how can you not like, just sit there and like soak it all into your point? So much history, so many great champions there. Like you gotta like sit there and just like imagine what was going on all these different days throughout history.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, that first trip in January, we weren't the most productive out of all the days for sure. It was definitely, I think, I'm sure you've played some good golf courses, like you said, Bethpage. And I'm sure the first time you play Bethpage, you're like, oh my gosh, like we're playing Bethpage, and there's kind of like you kind of get amped up on the first tee, and it has this mystique to it. But if you go back and you play for the fourth time or the fifth time, you kind of start to forget about the mystique and the craziness, and it's just like, oh,
Right.
I'm gonna go play golf today. So that was the idea. That first day, we were flushing all that. Oh my gosh, this is where Bubba hit this shot, and this is where that guy did that, kind of out of our system. So then when we came back the next time, we could just kind of focus on playing golf and preparing. But yeah, that was, I mean, that was that kind of like holy crap of playing Augusta is still, it kind of comes back to when you get there for the first round of the tournament. Like you get there on property, you play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you're like, oh, this is the exact same thing I did during my practice trips, except there's, a few thousand people here. And then you get there on Thursday and you walk to that first tee and you're like, holy crap, I'm about to hit a tee shot in the Masters. The tournament, I used to get in trouble for watching during class in high school. I'm now about to go play and get some other high school kid in trouble for watching me play golf, which is just something that's like so wild. I was pretty emotional walking up to that first tee. I'll be honest. That was one of the coolest moments
Yeah.
of my life because that tournament is the one that I, connect with most of the four majors.
I can imagine, like, to your point, walking up there, like, first tee jitters on a million. I can imagine. Like, I probably wouldn't even be able to make contact with the ball.
Yeah,
But so
it's
tell
so
me, you
bad.
hinted
It's
at it a
so
little
bad
bit,
though
like with
that
the
you wanna hit like 3 wood off that tee. Really, optimally, you want to hit 3 wood because it keeps you, short of the middle of the right bunker. And because if you get past the middle of the right bunker, you kind of get screwed. And the left comes in with driver. And there was absolutely no chance I was hitting through it off that first tee. I was giving myself the biggest surface area possible to hit because I had no idea where that. I mean, I hit the golf ball like 60 yards right, almost out of bounds on my first swing, and I made part of my life for sure there. But that place is it gets nervy, it gets real nervy.
I bet, dude. So at what point then do you like settle in, or do you settle in at all at a place like Augusta?
Well, I mean, as soon as I, almost smoke one out of bounds, we find it, I like chip it into the green side bunker, hit a pretty solid bunker shot out to 6 feet. I got a six footer for par on my first at Augusta, and we make it. Then I think that's kind of the point where we start to be like, okay, like we can play golf here. Like we this is
Right.
still just golf because I just made the trashiest par of my tournament, and that on the first hole. And I think I was actually pretty lucky to have roped one into trees on my first swing because it really got me settled down real quick.
Love that too. I mean, I'm gonna compare that like to the amateur version of that is like me and my buddies always say like if you get a double or triple bogey on like one of the first three holes, it's like got it out of the way. You know, you're freed up to play real golf, right? Get the bad
Exactly,
swings out of there.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you only have so many bad swings to give, so if you get them out of the way early, you're gonna have some fun on the back nine.
But all right, dude. My biggest question about the Masters is like that final round. Man, I'm sure you've been asked to talk about this a lot, but you find out you're paired with the big cat, Tiger Woods. Like, what's going through your head when you see that name on the tee sheet?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it at first, and then I got really worried. Like I know he shot like 80 that day or 81. Like he played really poorly. And my second thought was like, oh my gosh, like is he hurt? Like is he actually gonna come out to play on Sunday? Because I think he's pulled out after Saturday a few times. I was like a little nervous about that, but then once I saw him on property Sunday morning, I was so as over the moon. I was so excited. And then he really took the time to he took the time to talk to me on the golf course a lot, and we had some really great conversations. And I think it was really cool. I think he was aware of what that moment would probably mean for me, 12 or 15 years
Right.
down the road. I mean, it's something that I'll be able to tell my grandkids that I did. I played a Tiger on Sunday at the Masters, and I think on top of that too, that being able to play with him on Sunday of the Masters. I mean that I shot like 79 from in my round on yeah, I think I shot 79 on Saturday, and I got way more press that Saturday night and then Sunday than I had the rest of the week combined, just because I'm playing with Big
Right.
Cat. So I think it really kind of provided a little launching pad for us, after Augusta to go into the U.S. Open with kind of a following, and pretty thankful for the needle mover that Tiger is. He helped me out, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you mentioned the crowds and the press. Like, can you talk about like everyone says like the Tiger roars, and I know Tiger wasn't playing his best that Sunday, but were there any like hints of like what a true Tiger roar is really like, even when he might not have his best stuff?
Yeah, I think what was cool is like it didn't matter if it was Tiger or the guy or me in that instance. Like we'd both get pretty similar roars. But I know I made like a 35-foot bomb on 15 for birdie, and the place went absolutely electric. It was pretty cool. And we hit a really good chip on number two. Like I hit a kind of side spin chip that went down the hill, and almost went in for eagle. And we got a really big, like a lot of crowd noise from that one. And so as soon as it kind of like we saw that, like my caddy and I were like kind of like, oh, that's a little different. And then we were like, let's do that again. Like let's keep hitting, like we wanted to try and keep hitting really cool golf shots and great golf shots, so that we kept getting those like crazy reactions.
So compare last question on Tiger. Compare that tee shot you hit on the first hole on Thursday to walking up to shake Tiger Woods' hand before your round. Where compare the nerve levels on those two.
Yeah, I mean, you only get one first impression, so I certainly did not want to screw that one up. But yeah, I was pretty nervous walking up to Tiger, but I feel like that's just like saying, hey, Tiger, I'm Neal. Great to meet you. Really excited about
Right.
today. That's a little bit easier than hitting your first tee shot at the Masters. I got to go. The Masters is more nervy, but that Tiger handshake was. He's got a great handshake, by the way. It's pretty
I bet.
real solid handshake. It's impressive.
I can imagine. I mean, what's that? There's that clip of that like big dog meme like of Tiger. I can only imagine that man's got a sturdy handshake. But anyways, man. So to wrap on the Masters, I want to talk about the winner really quick. So Scotty obviously won the Masters. Like in your opinion, like I've heard so many great players talk about how impressive it is what Scotty's doing. Rory's spoken about it. Xander, a bunch of the top guys are so impressed with his level of play. Can you tell me a little bit about like why Scotty Scheffler's level of play this year is so impressive?
Yeah, like just in like to summarize it as quickly as possible, I would say that Scotty almost never misses an iron shot. I mean, if you look at his proximity to the hole stats, it is absolutely stupid. Like he's averaging 16 feet from like 150 to 175 yards, which is just like absolutely stupid. A good metric to go off of is, if you're a competitive amateur golfer, like if you take 10% of your distance, your yardage, and convert it into feet. Like if I was 115 yards out, so if I 150 yards out, sorry, and hit it to 15 feet, that was that'd be a really solid shot. So that's kind of the metric that I'm kind of going off of. And but he's
Mhm.
doing that every time on average. Then everyone talks about his putting woes, but when you hit it to 15 or 20 feet, all the freaking time, when you're hitting 16 greens around or 15 greens around, you don't need to putt good to shoot 67. You
Right.
just need to make a couple of them. If you make a few go in, you're gonna have two tap-ins, and all of a sudden you're just seven birdies, six birdies, and you only missed one, only didn't get one up and down. I hit one into a bad spot, didn't get up and down, made bogey. That's kind of like the level of consistency he's shown is just pretty. It's just so impressive because the streak of ball striking kind of carry it this long. That's super impressive with the irons. And then on top of that, he's a really solid driver with the golf ball as well. So when you have those two things going for you, there's not really a golf course out there that intimidates you or is, really that doesn't suit you because ball striking travels to any golf course.
Well, let's fast forward to Pinehurst then. Obviously, you win the low am at the Masters. You're in the U.S. Open. Tell me, like, how does the test of Pinehurst compare to the test of Augusta in your mind? Very different, very different golf courses, very different, like, governing bodies with the USGA holding par, very sacred.
The best way to explain it is, Augusta is about creating a test that separates the guys but is fair. They're not going out there to absolutely beat people's heads in. You could see like on Thursday and Friday we had a ton of wind, so that's why we had one
Right.
of the highest cuts in recent Masters history. I think it's like 6 over made the cut, but even like with that wind, holes that were going to be into the wind a ton. Those tees were near the front of the tee boxes, and they're really aware of some of those elements. Yeah, the USGA they just don't care. It's like we're gonna have this really hard setup, and it's gonna be really freaking hard. If you make 18 pars, that's gonna be a great score. And I think I think they've backed off the mantra of like like winner of the US Open needs to be over par. They're going soft, but not like really soft. I mean, they're throwing out some super tough golf course setups, and they want the conditions to be really firm and fast. And yeah, they got that at Pinehurst, and with those turtleback greens, that place is just like it's every golfer's nightmare. To be honest, like I don't understand how. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people listening, have had friends that go to Pinehurst and absolutely love it. If you're, if you're not a really elite amateur player, like I don't really get it. Like if you if you're not a good driver of a golf ball, you're in the waste area all day, and then you eventually get it up near the green, then you got to start chipping, which could just turn into ping pong. And then once you get on the greens, I mean that's still not that easy either. I mean, it's like a five handy. I get five handicap goes out there from like the U.S. Open tees and shoots better than 85. That is just an awesome round. That place is so tough, but yeah, it's so it's just crazy. It really
Right.
is nightmare fuel. Like it's nightmare fuel.
So you, I mean, you said nightmare fuel, but so like, what's going through your mind? Because I'm sure you had a handful of them. Like I saw plenty of different players' experiences on TV where you hit like a good shot, like you're posing on a shot, it's well struck, going at a spot that you're within a few yards of where you're aiming. But it's Pinehurst. You get a bad break, trickles off the green, maybe into a waste area, maybe into a a tough lie into the grain. Like how do you kind of stay composed when like that's just going to happen where you hit a good shot, it ends up in a bad spot just because that's the test of Pinehurst.
Yeah, I think it's important. I was trying to remind myself, like, yeah, I just put a really good swing on that golf ball, and that's just gonna happen. Like hole 15, I swear, of the 4 days I put three really solid swings on the ball, and I hit the green once. I mean, it was just. It was just actually kind of crazy how firm and hard that green was to hit. And I'm a high spin player too, so like you can imagine for some of the low spin guys, it's just like
Right.
if you land it more than five paces on top, you're just not holding the green. So like just remind yourself, it's like look, it's really hard for everyone. If I'm having trouble holding greens, well, that means everyone else is too. And it's just like let's just get up and down because that's if you're a really good chipper at Pinehurst, you can get up and down if you leave yourself in the right spot. And I think that's what we did a really good job. We didn't have any situations where we hit an iron into the green and ended up in waste area, which is good, was definitely priority number one. Especially you don't want to miss over the back of the greens at Pinehurst because they end up like running off way more, and then you're going up, and all the greens kind of slope away from you. So we didn't hit over the back of any greens. We kind of always left ourselves short of the pin and had chips that were reasonable. So, kind of managing your golf ball. It's about managing your shots. And I think we did, you had to do that. And we did a really solid job of that. And that's why we played really well.
And I guess I know we're a little short on time, but tell me a little bit about like that final round where you and Luke are in the same group, kind of duking it out for the low am a title.
hmm
Was that something that like you go into that thinking of it just like as a match, or are you just trying to like play your own game, and if you win the low am, you win it?
I think early on was my mentality was like, let's like these first finals, let's just try to play my own game and see what happens. I didn't want to like, if you get a shot behind and start chasing when you have 14 holes left, that's maybe not the best spot to be, But then we kind of got into the back nine and it was, we're like tied or right neck and neck. And that's when it was like, all right, like we're like this is pretty much match now. Especially coming down the stretch the last 4 or 5 holes, it really felt like that. It was really nerve-wracking, but a lot of fun. I knew Luke. He's a great kid, and he's got a ton. I mean, he just played ridiculously good at the Rocket Mortgage. I mean, he played great, and he's such a good player. And so he has a great future ahead of him. And it's tough to see him miss the couple putts coming down the stretch. But that was that tournament and kind of doing that was so cool, and the experience too at the match play. I mean, we had a lot of coverage about it, and I think it's so unique to have the two amateurs who are in it paired together. Normally, you're
Yeah.
in separate groups playing with some pro who's in the middle of the pack, because usually the AMs are too. And it was a kind of a fun experience to have that familiar face on Sunday.
So I guess I just got two more quick questions for you before we wrap up. Now that you're like, I guess tell me about like the transition actually turning pro. Like, was that the plan post U.S. Open regardless, or were you gonna like see how things went and then ultimately turn pro? And then I guess second part of that question, like, what are your goals for like the rest of this year and going into next year?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the plan to turn pro. I had, right before the US Open, I went to PGA Tour Canada Q School and made it through. That was, a huge, really good accomplishment. So then, I always had planned that the week after the US Open, I was flying to Victoria, British Columbia, and playing my first PGA Tour Canada event. And we went and did that. And it's funny that the transition, to become a pro, all you really do is sign a W-9 form, and all of a sudden you're a pro. It's pretty funny. There's no like big ceremony to it, but yeah. So, but then
No
when
press
you
conference like Tiger, hello world.
no presser. It was just here's you go into registration and it's like, hey, could you fill out this W-9 for me? And like, yeah, sure. And what's your routing number for your bank? And there you go. And then you get that check every Wednesday, which is nice. But the one thing about professional golf and the transition from amateur golf and college golf is just how back to back to back everything is, because you really
Yeah.
Think about it. You play your tournament Thursday to Sunday. You fly out to your next stop Sunday night. You get to the course on Monday, and maybe you play nine. You practice Tuesday, pro am Wednesday, and then you go 18, 18, 18, 18, and then you fly out again. That's next Sunday, and do it all over again. And some guys go 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, and you're living out of a suitcase. So it takes, you got to manage yourself, you got to manage your body, manage your time well. So it's a little bit of everything going on.
And then what would you say are like some? I know you play the Rocket Mortgage, T20 there, decent check, and
Yeah.
then you've got the John Deere this week. So what are some of your goals the rest of this season, and then over the next like 3 to 5 years, kind of where do you see your game progressing?
Yeah, I mean, over this season, our main goal is to try and get Korn Ferry status for next year. You can do that through a bunch of different routes, whether it's Q school or some roundabout rules in the FedEx Cup point standings or whatnot. Yeah, that's like goal number one. What would be nice here is in this stretch of golf to play really well and trigger special temporary status. That would be super ideal. But it's gonna be very difficult to do. That's just how that goes. Yeah, I mean, ideally here, it's just, we're trying to enjoy the ride, really. I think I'm trying to really focus on the fact that professional golf, it's a marathon, not a sprint. A lot of guys, especially now, with Rocket Mortgage and having some of these starts, I've got a lot of gunpowder now to say where I can play for a few years and be okay. I'm very fortunate that I have that. Not every guy in the world has that, and I think that's the reason why a lot of guys don't make it is because they just run out of money, run out of steam, and so we're just with that in mind. If things don't go our way the next year, it's not a big deal, but I'd really like to, within the next 3 years, be on the PGA Tour. I mean, that's my personal dream. I'm sure you have the live versus the PGA Tour debate all the time, and live golf. Obviously, it's great, and I think a lot of those guys, obviously, respective decisions, and honestly, their decisions make sense for their situations, most of them. But for me, as a young guy, I want to be on the tour and kind of living out my childhood dream right now.
Is there like a specific, I don't know, like a specific tournament or like a venue where like, you're really excited to play at some point in your career that you haven't really played? Obviously, Augusta was probably the biggest one, but I guess what's next on the list for like a tournament you're really excited to get into at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I would really, for me, it had to be the Memorial and Bay Hill Classic because just with the Jack Nicklaus connection with Ohio State, I mean, I've met Jack. He's helped me out prepping for Augusta. We kind of talked me through the golf course and how he thinks about Augusta, and man, was that a really cool conversation. But I think also the Bay Hill Classic because, or the Arnold Palmer Invitational, I guess is what it is. Sorry, but Arnold Palmer, me being from Western Pennsylvania, Mr. Palmer being from Latrobe and close to where I'm from, the legacy that he had on the game in the area, he's just so important to Western Pennsylvania golf, really. He was meant the world to the community, the West Penn Golf Association, all that. He was the GOAT, the man. And so that I would really love to play his tournament and get to honor him and be a Western Pennsylvania guy there. I think that's one of the tournaments I really look forward to. And I've played the golf course and I really like that golf course. It's a great course. So I'd like to play those two. I think those are kind of the two stops I really want to see.
All right. So last question for you. I ask this to all my guests that come on the show, whether they're a 20 handicap or a +6 like you. So why do you love golf, man? Like I know it's your career now, so that's probably part of it. But at least maybe take me back a little bit. Like why do you love golf? What's kept you coming back, and why are you excited for this to be like your full-time life now?
I think golf is so unique because it brings you to so many different people from different walks of life. Obviously, my young days at the country club that I was at south of town in Pittsburgh, certainly me and my friends were not from that far different walks of life, but it brought me to them. And those are some of my best friends still to this day. Even now when we're on tour, yeah, I get to meet so many cool people here. whether it's a lot, I mean, a lot of the caddies have awesome stories, are really cool people. The guy caddying for me this week, his name's Alex. He's a great dude, and I just met him on Monday. So I think it's so unique, and it doesn't happen in other sports. And then you also have the ability to, if I'm teeing up, if I go and get a tee time at some public course here today, I could play with a 10 handicap, and I can play a game against him that would be fair, as long as he's not sandbagging. Like I think that's really cool. It's, if you play tennis, you have to be of a certain level to play tennis against someone else, or else you're just going to get absolutely crushed. But with golf, it's, we don't have that, and you can cheat up against anyone and have a really cool match and get to enjoy 4 or 5 hours, hopefully 4 hours on a golf course with some really cool people and get to know somebody, really well. And I think it's also unique about golf where you get to kind of get a glimpse into someone's attitude and how they deal with, adversity. And I think, it's also just the love of the game that brings so many people together that, you know, you don't, you don't know them, but that connects you to. And so I think yeah, it's just such a special game, and I'm really, really excited to start growing it here and continue to grow it over the next few years. And it's really awesome. That's what really kind of gets me going now is when I'm here at these tournaments and you see junior golfers, really excited to see you and who are kind of like, I can tell that, I'm inspiring and hopefully inspiring some kids to pick up some clubs and start playing. And I think that's, whether they end up on tour or end up being a weekend warrior, it's just, it's a game that's changes lives. So yeah, I probably went on a little too long there, but that's kind of the long form answer, I guess.
No, that was perfect, man. It's whenever I ask that question, I feel like most people they can't nail it to just one thing, right? Like it's so many different things that all combine into this one thing, and that's golf, and that's why we love it so much. I'm a 10 handicap, so maybe I'll take you up on that match at some point, and we'll see if I'm a sandbagger or not. But Neal, this was a blast, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I think you already have a ton of fans, but I think you just won over a ton more people after our conversation today. Best of luck this week in the John Deere. I'll be watching you, but this was a real treat, man. Thanks for making time to do this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Appreciate you, Noah.